or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Wendy Howell. I'm the CEO of Executive Council Network. We are one of the sponsors of this fine event. So I want to say thank you to Stelios and One Business World for hosting another great event. You are in for a treat. We have the amazing Kate Bradley Chernis, who is going to be your presenter for this session. She's the co-founder and CEO of Lately, and her session is going to be on social AI copywriting, but get this, fueled by the neuroscience of music. So it's an extremely interesting topic, and we're thrilled to have her here. So Kate, take it away.
Wow. Well, thanks. Hi, everybody. Wendy, you're the best. Great to be with you again.
You as well.
And I love your Buddha. It's reminding me the message that I really need today, which is like Zen, calm, breathe. It's already been quite a morning. Hi to all of you as well. So I'm Kate Lee from Lately. That's how you can remember me. We're going to do a couple of quick slides, sort of a condensed version of this workshop, and I'll make sure that you guys all have access to the slides afterwards, so don't fret about that. I'm going to do a screen show. For those of you who don't know, I used to be a rock and roll DJ. My last gig was broadcasting to 20 million listeners a day for XM satellite radio. You can see that's me in there. This is my husband. He has short hair now and wears chinos, and he's in sales.
Days of yore.
Days of yore, Wendy, exactly. But what's really interesting to me is, so my Uber power is turning listeners into fans or customers into evangelists, right? And this is the mindset I want you guys all to really start thinking of and to shift to, because when you stop being in the business of sales and then you start to be in the business of evangelists, you get exponential bang for your buck, right? So if this is the new objective, because a sale is a fleeting type of thing, but an evangelist, not only do they become a customer, but then they work for you for free, and they do it for almost a lifetime, right? We've had so many customers, even customers who've churned and moved on, that are still promoting us for free on a daily basis, okay? And this is the mindset I'm going to ask you to kind of shift to, and we'll talk about how to do that in your writing specifically. So Wendy, I'm assuming you like music. What do you listen to?
Oh, I am so all over the board. I go anywhere from classical to 80s to rock and roll to spa music, you name it. I'm everywhere. I'm a freak of nature.
No, you're normal, right? That's great. So let's talk a little bit about what happens with sound and like how we listen to it. So I'm just going to share a couple of pieces of information for you guys. So 84% of marketers rely on sight alone in their marketing. Think about that. We've got 5 senses here, but we all default to one. And I'm going to argue that there's one that's the most powerful, and that's sound, right? So hearing is our fastest sense. It takes humans 0.17 seconds to respond to audio versus almost twice that for visual, right? And just think about, in the world we all live in, you know, that the time is everything. Our patience is short. Our actual time during the day is short. And sound lets you literally cut through the noise, right? I was just rewatching Top Gun. Anyone else?
Oh, we rewatched it and then we went to see the movie. So yes, it's a thing now. It's a trend.
Awesome. So the need for speed is real, right? And it always has been. So, you know, what's also interesting about sound is sound can't play tricks on you, but your eyes can. They're very good at lying to you. Escher is a great example. Look at these kind of visual tricks here. Yes. When it comes to audio illusions, there's really only a handful of all of them. And I'll sort of try to put this into a bit of an example. So with a song, Wendy, so say it was some song from the 80s, say it was, let's say it was Who Can It Be Now from Men at Work. That's a song we're listening to. Classic song. Okay, now say we fast forwarded 30 years and a woman is going to sing the song, and they're going to up the tempo of it twice as fast, and they're going to turn it into a minor key. What's amazing is you will know that's still Men at Work, and that song, you'll know that song.
Right.
So you can turn it inside out. But if I showed you a picture of me and I was 2.5 feet taller and I had darker skin and maybe I had red hair and I gained a few pounds, you probably are not going to know that's me. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's a very powerful sense. The other thing I want to share about listening and audio is the theater of the mind. And there's a parallel here to writing, which is what we're going to get into in 1 second. So radio is the theater of the mind. This is a very famous quote. Television is the theater of the mind less. Sorry, video. You're for dummies, right? Because there's no action required when you watch TV. You just sit back and relax, right? Whereas sound requires the human to play a role because there's this mystery there. You can't see it. It's not a gimme. So your imagination has to fill in the blank, okay? Now, if you're a good radio host or a good podcast host, it's your job to guide people along, give them enough touch points so they're filling the blanks that you want them to fill, but it's still sort of their own. They've got some control over the imagination that they're putting in. Now, reading is the same way, right? So no matter how good you think the Harry Potter movies are, the books are better because you still have this imagination of what you read first in your mind, and your mind always goes back to that, no matter what Ron looks like, or anyone else from Gryffindor, or any of the characters there, right? Your mind has that powerful thing that you first went to. So when you listen to music, this is what's so exciting to me. Now, whether it's classical, Wendy, or 80s rock and roll, or anything else, what happens when you hear a new song is that instantly your brain must access every other song it's ever heard before. And what it's doing is it's looking for familiar touch points, so it knows where to index that new song in the library of the memory of your brain. Okay, just think about how
oh, sorry, Kate, but I was going to say, it's so crazy that you cannot hear a song for, I think this will support your point. You haven't heard a song in 10 years, and you hear the song and instantaneously you dive into the lyrics. So I think I'm a case test for you.
That's right, you do. And what you're talking about is nostalgia, right? Memory, nostalgia, there's emotion there. It's kind of like, you've heard muscle memory, right? That's what we're talking about. It's the power of the audio memory of your brain, just to get right back in there. It's very deep.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. And so what's happening when your brain is looking for those familiar touch points to know where to index that song, that's that nostalgia, memory, emotion coming forth. Again, this isn't an instant, right? It's why music listening is so powerful. What's also fascinating is those three characteristics, nostalgia, memory, emotion, must be in play for trust to happen, Wendy. And trust is why we buy. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what I want you guys all to think about now is the relationship to writing. So if Wendy writes me an email or a text or a Slack message, I read what she wrote and I hear her voice in my head. Even if I've never met her before, there's a voice that comes through, right? And every voice is like a song. There's a musical note to the sound of your voice. All sound has a frequency, right? So it's the similar idea as the author, Wendy, of said text. Your job is to be a good podcast host, to give me familiar touch points and trigger nostalgia, memory, emotion, trust.
Love that.
So let's talk about that today. So to back up for 1 second, let me see if I've got a little slide for this. I think I do somewhere here. So we use this at Lately. I'm not going to make a commercial, but I want to give you guys some social proof here. Lately uses artificial intelligence fueled by the power of what we're talking about to identify what words and messaging is most relevant to your audience, what will get you the highest engagement. And then we take apart long form content like this video or a blog, for example, and we pull out the words and messaging that we know will get you that high engagement and help you create social posts with them. Here at Lately, we have a 98% sales conversion because we only use our own product for all marketing, 98%. And the point of telling you this is that's how powerful the understanding of what messaging will resonate when you use it to trigger nostalgia, emotion, and trust, which, by the way, goes directly to the heart of making fans and evangelists. Okay. So the way
Those numbers are insane, Kate. I mean, like
they're insane. Yeah.
that's absolutely unbelievable, right? So
It works.
that shows the power, right?
Yeah, it works. I mean, I was #1 in my format, which is a very rare format. It's called AAA, and in the evenings, which is you're only #1 usually in the morning or middays. Those are the #1 slots, and it's usually country or pop music. And I was in AAA, which no one knows. And my boss, I remember, called me 6 months later and said, "Hey, you're #1. What did you do?" And I said, "I threw out your playlist every day," which I did. And at the time, I was the production director. So I also made all the drops between the songs. And I had this sound library that I was using of all these samplings of like touch points of pop culture from now and in the past that I was using to drop in along the way to tug on the things we're just talking about, right? So this is where it comes from.
And a drop is just, a really short vignette, sound vignette that you drop in. Okay.
Yeah, like the identifiers of the station. You're listening to XM50.
Got it. Okay.
Whatever. So let's talk about how. So let me switch to another slide here for you guys. Welcome to my life. I'm just doing a quick thing here today because I wanted to show that to you, and I want to get to a couple of the rules. So the rules are what our AI learns from, okay? So here's my, oops, I just stopped sharing my screen by accident. Here's my first rule, and this is my favorite one. Women in the house, raise your hands. I find that we're the most guilty of this. Wendy, do you do this? Do you undercut your authority with weak words sometimes?
I think I used to, but I think I very consciously worked on that. So I believe I'm better than I was, 5 years ago.
Great for you. And it's a thing, it happens to all of us. So when you use weak words like maybe, I think versus I know, perhaps, there you go. We all do it, right? And there's a time for that, but really think about how valuable your authority is. And this translates also into, think about statements. So if you start out, and I'll give you an example too. You guys can have both of these slide sets. When you start out a sentence with something like, "Oh, hey, I just wanted to say XYZ," you're wasting time because you're making me read that before the meat of the thing, #1. You're undercutting your authority so that I'm already second guessing, I'm already doubting the value and the trueness of what it is you're about to say. Whereas if you start to think in statements, and that can be as simply as putting a verb first, right? When you put a verb first in the front of the sentence, it then makes the whole sentence a call to action. There's a command that happens. So I'll show you guys an example here. And I'm going to read this to you, but then you can have a copy and read it your own. So marketing is like brushing your teeth with an electric toothbrush. Yes, the head moves on its own, but you still have to hold the brush. Work required, humans plus machines, more on how AI and humans must both be part of the equation. So I'm going to break this down. Okay, Wendy, right. So the first thing I did, sentence #1, statement, marketing is like, it's not kind of like, or did you ever think that marketing might be like? You see this, I'm making, marketing is like brushing your teeth. It's definitive, that's right. And then I sort of further go to it by saying, yes, the head moves on its own. Here's another statement. You still have to hold the brush, okay? Now, I've got those in capital letters because I really want you to not only feel the power of my authority, I want you to nod like you just did.
Right, exactly.
Okay? I want you to smile because all messaging is about, and let me surprise, here's the spoiler alert. Every communication any of us do anywhere is about getting someone else to do what we want them to do. Very simple, right? And so if you start in your mind, that mindset we talked about, what end game do I want after this? With social media, there's only two, share or click, okay? Very click. So I'm always going for the share because clicks are harder because nobody knows your name and you're not like trustworthy unless you're a big brand. Generally speaking, there's an exception, which I'll share in a second. But the share is easier. So part of going with a share is the ego. My goal is to make you look smart if you shared this. So when I use statements, the statements become yours when you share it. Okay. It's all about the ego. Think about music. When you're in college, Wendy, and somebody came and played you a new record and you loved it, the first thing you did was share it with somebody else. And guess what? You get the credit for being the tastemaker.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So then if we continue to break this down, even in the hashtags, I'm using work required, humans plus machines. Okay. They're all statement-esque. More on how AI and humans must, not should be, but must both be part of the equation. So can you see all that?
Yeah,
right?
Very powerful.
Cool. So should we do a couple more tips? You guys want a couple more?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. I think I have 10 or 11 here, but let's see. Oh, I got to do this one. Okay. Sorry, Stelios, I think you're guilty of this. We all are. We've all done it. I want you guys to think about the verb checkout. I talked about verbs and how powerful they are. That thesaurus is your friend. Okay. The checkout is a meaningless phrase. We've all done it before. Check out my blog. Check out this idea. Check out these pictures. It means nothing. It's like awesome. I'm guilty of awesome. Awesome does not mean awesome anymore because we've, hyperbolized it to death. When you think of another verb other than check out, guess what else you do? You support your own authority. Right? So this is going to be a constant thing. Authority means trust. Trust is why we buy. It's all connected here. The other thing that checkout does is it kind of makes you look spammy at this point, and certainly lazy.
I would definitely agree with that.
Right? Because you're not communicating the value. So there's like this weird mystery around, like, well, what happens if I click the link you want me to check out? What do I get out of it? So now I think you're wasting my time by not actually telling me. Right? So see all that happens just by this lazy ass verb. So pick something new. Okay.
I am like the queen of thesaurus.com. So I'm so there with you, Kate. Queen.
There you go. And I'll give you guys an example. I actually, I kind of avoid calls to actions altogether, more or less. I'll show you a few more examples as we go through here, but here we go. About to record the next edition of Scaling Your Startup with me, Hack, and Jason. I even brushed my hair. Subscribe to hear a few copy tricks I haven't shared before. So my call to action is subscribe, but there's more to that because I don't want to just say subscribe to this Scaling Your Startup, right? What is it about? It's about copywriting. So now I'm giving you that, right? So now you know what it's about at least. I'm also saying, because I happen to know there's people that are going to be there that had been in my workshop before, there's tricks I haven't shared before. So they get a little more. There's some mystery here. There's enough mystery so it's not spammy, but my design is for you to obviously, come, right? I'm doing a couple other things. So the parentheses, I even brushed my hair. That's an under the breath thing. That's designed for emotion, memory, nostalgia. I'm trying to relate to you. Who else hasn't brushed their hair? I'm on day 3 of not washing my hair today because I'm lazy and I don't have time for it. And I don't know why. I used to be able to go 5 days. Now it's 3 and I'm pushing it. It's greasy in the back. You guys only have to see the front. Thank God. But there's a lot here that's going on to support what we've talked about before. So let's see if I can squeeze in a few more tricks. I'm going to just go to.
I'm intrigued by that one.
This one, the negative
calls to action, and then the why as well.
Okay, cool. So these ones are like, they're tricksy, which I like them. So the negative calls to action, it can mean the same thing, but there's something about the negative that makes us respond and lean forward. Okay. And we see this in sales copy all the time, actually. So it's FOMO is what it is. Remember to follow these rules versus don't forget to follow. When you say don't forget, somehow this kind of feeling of shame comes over you and you're like, oh my God, did I forget? Did I? Now you're asking yourself right away. It's the first thing you do. So now you're involved. I made you part of my conversation, but you can't even help it. Right. And that's what I want you to do, is to react, because the first step, again, I always back into the objectives, share and like. So before I even think of sharing or liking, I have to react in some way, right?
Yes.
First thing. So here we go. Preach. Words are the DNA of every sales pitch. The wrong words are costing companies $400 billion in the US alone. Don't let that be you. Join WA 318 for a free copywriting course. So let me break it down. Don't let that be you. You see that that's also serving as a call to action of sorts. It's precursor to the
Sort
join.
of FOMO, yeah.
Yeah, sort of FOMO. And also you put, it's the empathy, right? Sympathy. You're putting yourself, I'm forcing you to put yourself in someone's shoes, you know? Other things I'm doing here, preach, there's my command. There's my verb right up front. It's that authoritative, that action. And then a statement, words are the DNA, not might be, could be, I think they are, none of that, they just are, you know? The wrong words, again, I'm saying another statement, are costing companies $400 billion. When you even use a word like wrong, guess what? Everyone instantly thinks, shit, am I using the wrong words?
Exactly.
Have I done something wrong, right? This is that punishment factor that we feel. Other things here, you know, join moi. I grew up in the era of Miss Piggy, so that's my sense of humor, right? That I can do here. So I'm these little touching things. The other thing, notice the tagging and the hashtagging in line. When you do it in line, you get the visual cues there, which help stop the eye and pause in different places. When you just throw a slew of hashtags at the end, it's, guess what, lazy. But also it doesn't actually do anything to further emphasize your content, because we've all learned to ignore those suckers, you know, kind of like how we've ignored banner ads for so many years. So we have to move quickly, but you had asked about, I want to show you guys this one and one more.
Perfect.
The why and because, so tricksy. Okay. This one I love. So we all know the journalistic questions, right? Who, what, where, why, how, when? Did I get them all? There's 6, right? Who, what, why, how, where, when? Yeah. So with why, the answer is always because, always, right? You know it's coming. You expect it to come. When it doesn't come, you feel a sense of unresolvedness. Yes. You're at a loss. You're left at the altar, right? So you want that because, so you can use it. Now you get the question mark also, that this is back to that visual cue. So I was a line cook all through high school and college, Wendy.
Awesome.
Had a voracious appetite, and I got 2 free meals a day in the kitchen. You know?
Beat that.
Yeah. And so, you know, we all have seen the cooking shows. There's a reason why Chopped has that category of visual appeal, because we eat with our eyes and we read with our eyes, right? We totally do. So you want to really think about that. We talked about the hashtags previously, but you know, the question mark is part of this visual appeal. So here's an example about the why because. Why, how's the weather is the simplest, most powerful question still, plus other sales and marketing pro tips that'll make you go, with moi and Katja Allison. Remember I told you guys I don't like call to action. So here's me not even using one. I just use arrows after still, pointing you toward the click. So it's a little more subtle there. Why, so now I'm using why kind of twice here. So why, how's the weather is the question is why, but I haven't resolved it. You don't know the answer. You have to click to find out. Yeah. See what I did? I buried the because behind the click. That's mean.
I would also call it exceedingly intelligent.
Well, thank you. Those glasses, by the way, are fake. So I use them to make myself look smart on LinkedIn.
Love it.
And so let's break down the other things we said before. There's the statements. Here we go. Why, how's the weather is the simplest, most powerful question still. That's a statement, even though there's a question built in, right? There's 2 questions. How's the weather? I like doubled it out on you there. I've got the quotation marks, which I didn't have to do, but I give you a visual and I wanted you to really focus on that and think about that question, which most people think is a very boring topic, but it's not at all. Still is the hard emphasis, right? Plus, I use the plus versus the word plus because I'm giving you visual inline hashtags, things that make you go, you know, I grew up in the 90s, there's that reference. And then again, some moi. So I said we would look at one more thing and I'm going so fast, I have 2 minutes. You guys are the best. The last thing was this one. I just did this for you for 20 minutes. read what you write out loud.
Do that
Remember
all the
what,
time. Must.
yes, remember what we said, when Wendy writes text, I hear her voice.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is my challenge to all of you guys. Think about how you sound. Like I have what I call resting bitch face in writing. Okay, I have to I have to soften it. So sometimes I have to use weak words, like just probably maybe need, so I don't sound like such bitch, or emojis or other things. Now, if I'm going to give you this one example as fast as I can. West Elm, where I shop, sent me this in the snail mail. It says this certificate is issued for reward purposes and is a duplicate of the certificate you received by email. Can you hear how hard that is for me to say?
Yes.
Reward purposes, duplicate of the certificate. It's awful. It's legal speak. What they're trying to tell me is they sent me a second email. This is a coupon. They sent me the email and a coupon also. And they want to say, hey, dingling, you can't use both.
I love that. Yeah, this is a much better way to say that. That's one of the worst ones I've heard. Yeah.
It's much better. So I'm going to do this one last time so you guys can all see, but here we go. When I had to fire a client but didn't have the balls because they owed me so much money, gah! Another catalyst that sprung the lately sprawling. So onomatopoeia, great thing to use. I'm doing it there a ton. Gah, sprawling. You get the pause with the ellipses. I forgot to do a close paren, but you can see what I was trying to do with the under the breath thing we talked about before. That's like the aside. That's what we really do. That lets you know I'm a human, right? You can see that. The inline hashtags, even I made that it's kind of curious, like, what was the situation when you had to fire a client? Click to learn to find it out, right? I'm misspelling things, balls, cuz now I can do that because I have that personality, but that's another visual cue. And it also gives you a taste of my vernacular language, me.
Exactly.
Right, a real human. So a lot of packing the punch there, Wendy.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, these are fantastic. You did say that you're going to be comfortable sharing the deck with the folks that attended.
Yeah, for sure. So should I send them to you and Stelios?
Probably, yeah. I would like a copy of them myself as well. So that would be fantastic.
Sure, and then you guys can share as people like.
Yeah. Okay. So every time Kate does one of these, just so you're listening, Stelios, I want to be her person. So I'm always going to do your introductions, Kate, just so you know.
I would love that. I'm going to hire you at my next, at my wake for sure.
I'll come and like, yeah, just do the anything you need. And so I wanted to thank everyone for coming. I learned a couple things that I'm probably not doing appropriately. So there you go. Maybe I'll just start sending you all of my posts and you can just do them for me.
You got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you.